I can't stop thinking about the clients I interpret for. A change in their diets and lifestyle could prevent so many of their chronic illnesses.
And the use of whole ingredients on the recipe could add so much needed nourishment to feel better overall.
And what about reducing waste even more by convincing them to buy products with less packaging?
That's right. Totally.
People are often unaware of the connection between eating habits and disease. Even though information is widely available, many cannot access it. We have personally overcome hypertension, obesity, metabolic syndrome, acne, and chronic eczema just by changing diet. Americans spend as much as 40% of their food budget eating out. A large proportion of what is consumed at home is spent on ultra-processed snacks and ready-to-eat meals packaged in single-use plastic. B2Y Roots will educate families in a personal and customized way, serving as the missing link by facilitating access to the knowledge needed to reconnect with the sacred daily act of eating. We will promote reducing unnecessary food packaging to be respectful to our planet. We chose to start by serving the Hispanic community of Whatcom County because of our personal connection to the culture. We have also experienced the reality of the English language barrier. This minority sometimes even suffers from Spanish illiteracy and is one of the most affected in terms of chronic diseases caused mainly by a change to a highly processed foods diet. We want to start as a for-profit social entrepreneurship company partnering with nonprofits to launch the project. After 12 months, 10% of our income would be obtained from private clients willing and able to pay for coaching and personal chef services. At this point, we expect to grow our income by 10 to 15% every year from paying clients. We envision recruiting our most committed and inspired clients as coaches and chefs, replicating our model beyond Whatcom County and beyond the Hispanic community.
Antes de conocerlas, yo llenaba 2 carritos en Costco. Ahora solo lleno 1. Eso me impresionó muchísimo porque ya no estoy comprando tanto procesados. Si Mari pudo hacer el cambio, ¿por qué no yo? Sus consejos no me parecieron críticos, muy al contrario, lo entendí como un apoyo que me ayudaron a cambiar mi forma de pensar sobre la cesta de la compra. Las clases de cocina fueron muy valiosas, de verdad lo aprecio muchísimo.
I am Palin Sun, founder and visionary at EcoRare Technologies.
We provide a sustainable and innovative solution to address the environmental and public health issues associated with coal ash, while securing a reliable supply of rare earth elements crucial for modern technologies and clean energy. The conventional mining of REES is resource-intensive and damaging to the environment, and the disposal of coal ash poses significant health risks to nearby communities. By recycling REES from coal ash, we can potentially meet up to 94% of domestic annual needs, offering a green alternative for industries like clean tech manufacturers and the Department of Defense. Implementing our technology across all coal-fired power plants in the United States would achieve several significant benefits. It would reduce greenhouse gas emissions by up to 60% and prevent the release of 1.5 tons of greenhouse gases and 75,000 gallons of water per ton of rare earth oxides produced. Additionally, it would repurpose coal ash waste, leading to a reduction in the volume sent to landfills and impoundments by up to 90%. EcoRare is committed to creating a circular economy that minimizes waste and maximizes resource efficiency. We collaborate with coal-fired power plants, establishing mutually beneficial relationships that reduce waste disposal costs, generate additional revenue, and ensure a consistent supply of coal ash for re-recycling. At every stage of our operations, we prioritize eco-friendly practices. This includes the utilization of our proprietary supercritical CO2-based extraction process, which is less energy-intensive and utilizes readily available reagents. Moreover, our process effectively removes heavy metals from the equation. Our team at EcoRare is dedicated to fostering a greener future by providing meaningful employment opportunities for coal plant workers and supporting the transition to clean energy. We understand that protecting the planet and securing the supply of critical materials for the modern world are not mutually exclusive.
With EcoRare technology, we are revolutionizing the way the rare earth elements are sourced. And we believe that energy transition is actually the metal transition.
My name is Alice Marie. Welcome to my initiative of helping community colleges provide free clothing stores to their college students.
College students need clothes, and the landfill doesn't. Students struggle to meet basic needs because of the lack of sufficient income during the college years. Some colleges are trying to offer clothing, but often the system in place just isn't working. But let's talk about the clothes that students can more readily afford. That industry is known as fast fashion. According to Earth.org, of the 100 billion garments produced each year, 92 million tons ends up in our landfills. In the United States alone, an estimated 11.3 million tons of textile waste end up in our landfills on a yearly basis. That's equivalent to approximately 82 pounds per person per year. The fashion industry is responsible for 3% of global CO2 emissions, as well as over 20% of global water pollution. This year, as the regional president for the Academic Honor Society, Phi Theta Kappa, I was able to represent 60 community colleges. 38 of those are in Washington state. Using my community college network, I have helped colleges in Washington start free clothing stores on their campuses by providing workshops and guidelines for project completion. There are nearly 166,000 community college students in Washington state. If we can help them reduce their clothing waste by even half the national average, that would prevent over 7 million pounds of clothes from reaching the landfill. Not to mention, reducing landfill contributions from all of the community members that could start donating their clothes to their local community colleges. Community colleges are known for being open access learning institutions with a mission to prepare students for success in life and work. Just like Seattle Central, these colleges thrive with diversity. All community colleges strive to find ways to create equity for all students, particularly the underserved in our campus communities, by providing student support programs such as our campus food and resource pantries. Please do join me on my journey to empower community college students to start a free clothing store movement on their college campuses to help our people and our planet.
What's in your jeans? Did you know that there are about 2,000 gallons of water, the same amount of carbon emissions as driving a car for 70 miles? Plus some cadmium, chromium, mercury, and copper for that distressed look. Not to mention 2 weeks of time, many machines, and skilled workers. Are you sure you want to throw all that away? Fashion is responsible for 10% of humanity's greenhouse gas emissions. And what doesn't make us look good? The fact that every second, the equivalent of one garbage truck of textiles is landfilled or burned. In the USA, only 1 out of 10 garments is recycled. Donating to a secondhand shop is a great alternative to throwing your jeans into the garbage. But some clothes just don't make the cut. About 20% of the clothes donated to our nonprofit thrift store are damaged and can't be sold. In 2022, that turned into 8 tons of damaged goods from our shop in Forks, Washington. For us, downcycling those textiles means driving for over an hour to a transfer station where they begin a long journey to an uncertain fate. But what if that weren't the end of the story? Look again in those jeans. Do you see a rug, a purse, a flower pot? In the hands of a skilled maker, textile waste isn't waste at all. Rescued fabric can become new clothing and home goods. At Menful, we can reclaim textiles while creating jobs and increasing sustainable shopping options. Menful makers salvage damaged textiles and transform them into new products for your home, pets, and closet. The proceeds flow back into our community through our crisis response and financial aid offered by Force Disaster Relief. For years, crafters have been able to reclaim fabric from our recycling bins. We are not short on starting materials. but local makers need support. We can offer training, marketing help, and the opportunity to create as a community and to reach a bigger market together. So we need room to sow and room to grow. We plan to extend to a permanent location to create a maker space that will allow us to train makers and create products on site. What if what was inside your jeans was opportunity? Work with Menful to support local makers and buy reclaimed. Partner with us to end waste and give secondhand a second chance.
Hello, we are Team Remo. My name is Brenda, and this is Risa, and we're students from the University of Washington. One of the largest problems we're facing today that many are unaware of is stormwater runoff, which is when rainwater picks up pollutants from the road and enters rivers and watersheds where we get our main sources of drinking water. With the main watersheds being the Cedar River, runoff enters into these bodies of water and affects the animals, wildlife, and our ecosystems exposed to these toxic waters. One of the species being impacted the most is the Chinook salmon. To be exact, over 2 million pounds of toxins are entering into the Puget Sound every year. This in turn costs the seafood industry millions of dollars. Our utility systems are working in overdrive to combat this problem, but even then, it is not enough. The Washington State of Ecology has invested over $312 million in clean water projects and $5 million alone for King County to specifically mitigate problems around stormwater runoff. To determine why there hasn't been more green stormwater infrastructure, also known as GSI, to mitigate stormwater runoff, we interviewed a series of customers working in the green infrastructure industry.
While conducting our customer discovery interviews from various professionals, we learned that there are issues plaguing current solutions to stormwater runoff, such as high investment in time, effort, space, and most importantly, money, which is why Ryubo is offering a moss-based filtration kit to mitigate stormwater pollution. Using a simplified form of GSI, we can reduce pollution going to our storm drains by placing our kits in the pathway of running stormwater. Each Ryumo kit has a layered structure of moss, soil, and sediments to filter pollutants out of flowing stormwater. Then there is a layer of tarp which separates the kits from its surrounding environment. With our kit functioning as a more affordable, space, and time-efficient option for current GSI, we are allowing for increased access to more efficient stormwater solutions as we are utilizing the pre-existing space rather than rebuilding the built environment. Thank you so much for watching, and please contact us for any questions.
All right, thank you so much. Thank you so much, teams. And while judges are summarizing their questions, we are now ready to open the poll for the audience favorites. And you can see on the screen just a little reminder about who are the teams and what do they stand for. And audience, you'll have time through the end of judges' questions to vote. Which is 5 minutes per each team, which is 25 minutes in total. And after that, we will close the poll, but will not reveal who are the winner until the very end of the day. So please stay tuned. Okay, and now we are inviting to the floor and under the spotlight, the first team by B2Y Roots and Emma. Emma, you will have exactly 5 minutes to answer your questions, and I will give a notice for the last question. So judges, please prepare yourself. And can you please spotlight Emma? I will do that. All right, so I invite judges to answer questions. Ashima, please unmute yourself and ask your first question.
Sure. Firstly, thank you so much for that great video and presentation. It sounds like a fantastic idea, and I was really curious about what the customer experience is like. So if I wanted to sign up for this service, I understand that there might be like classes available or a one-on-one consultation. Could you provide a bit more detail about that?
Yeah, well, we want to start working with the Hispanic community, as we said in the video. So at the beginning, we want to offer our services to NGOs and public organizations like schools. In fact, we're already working and talking with the Bellingham School District here in Whatcom County. So I think we are envisioning to expand to other members of the community in a later stage of our project.
But also I would like to add that we have a program that will meet with each customer at the beginning individually in their houses, so that we can assess and have a conversation with them and see what the situation is. And then we will educate them in terms of what they can do to improve their health and the shopping habits. And then we will meet more sporadically after the first 3 months. We will meet once a month and then once every 3 months. And we will also are going to develop online educational aids.
Thank you so much for answering. Natasha Rivers, do you mind going for next? Thank you.
Yes, thank you so much. You kind of addressed it already, but I was thinking in terms of how you're going to scale and what other sort of, partners, nonprofit or otherwise, you will sort of engage to help you scale. Because it sounds like, there's a small team. So will you get like a bank of volunteers eventually to help you carry out your mission?
Yes. So we want to hire from our own customers, the ones that would like to promote the system. So we will build from that on our base.
Thank you so much. Andy, please go ahead and ask a question.
Thank you so much, and thank you so much for your presentation. Natasha actually sort of took the question I was going to ask, but I have a follow-on if that's okay. You mentioned in the presentation the coaching from chefs, and I wonder whether you could say a little bit more about whether you've already sort of set up those relationships, or will you be recruiting chefs into the program?
Well, we are envisioning starting really small. And the education is going to imply a mind of set to the families. And we understand, because we'll be working with Hispanic families at the beginning, we are thinking that these families are more willing to cook for their own families. But we understand that eventually when we reach out to other members of the community, especially Americans that don't have time to cook or to go shopping, we think that offering a personal chef service is going to help for them to embrace this whole idea of eating better and reducing waste through packaging, through not eating out and bringing a lot of single-use plastic home with their takeout food. Does that answer the question?
Yes, perfect. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. And we have only 1 minute left. Benush, do you mind asking your question?
Yeah, sorry, I can't get my camera on for some reason, but I tried. Thank you so much. I love the storytelling around your business offer. I was wondering if there were other successful models that you all see in the market out there that you want to try and emulate in some respect.
Well, what we are seeing outside in the market is a lot of programs offered online. So I don't know if you're familiar with them, but you enter and it's this company that offers you, cook this, cook that, eat this, eat that. You will improve your health, you will get better. And it's a pre-conceived package. And we want to go back to the roots of the problem, which is the bad eating habits that we have nowadays. And personally, advise the families. So our program is different in terms that we really want to advocate for the families and advise them and be there with them. Because as social animals, humans are more willing to do changes when it's another human that is actually telling you what to do. And in fact, if you realize on the video, the testimonial of one of our friends, I don't think she would have ever thought on changing her habits if she would have needed to follow a program on the internet. It was the fact that we were there with her and we were telling her, look, you can't do it. We've done it.
Thank you so much, Emma. Thank you. Derek, do you mind asking the question in the chat? And Emma, do you mind responding in the chat as well? And now we have to move on to the next team. And I am inviting to the floor Ecorare and Peilun. Peilun, I am spotlighting you for everyone, and judges, please raise your hands and ask questions to Ecorare. And we have Megan Dunn asking the first question.
Thank you. Hi, welcome. This is a great concept. I was wondering, is there a current market for recycled rare earth elements, and if not, is there a way for you to get connected, or we know what products exist that would be able to use this material?
Sure. Excuse me. Actually, for recycled materials, specifically recycled rare earth element, there is already an existing market in the United States for a lot of companies that are manufacturing electronics or green technologies like wind turbines and solar panels. They definitely want to benefit from sourcing their materials both responsibly and sustainably. So that's where our recycled rare earth element can come in, and we can help them to provide them with this recycled material, as well as we help them to reduce the carbon footprint for their end product.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Derek, please go ahead. And you're muted, I'm sorry.
Here I am taking up precious time with mute. Anyway, thank you for the presentation. There are, as you likely know, waste to incinerator or waste to energy or incinerators in the Pacific Northwest, one in Salem, Oregon, one in Spokane, both of which are being mined today. The ash is being mined today.
Mm-hmm.
How familiar are you with the economics of those offerings? And do you feel like your technology could be competitive with players in that space, recognizing that this is coal generator, not just ash from an incinerator?
Yeah, I think firstly, we are mainly working with coal-fired power plants where they, burn fire, and then one of the ways that is generated is coal ash, and those coal ash are currently either put into landfill or put into ponds, and that have a risk of damaging the environment, leaking to the groundwater or soil, which will in turn cause like serious public health concerns. What really sets us apart from other recycling practices is that we're proposing a distributed model and a commission-based model. Right, nowadays, a lot of other recycling facilities, they have this centralized model. So they ship or they buy all the materials from different places in the United States and then ship to one of their centralized process plants. And that will actually have a significant cost on transportation. So what we're proposing is that we want to deploy our services, machines at the on-site at the coal-fired power plants, and then in turn we can deploy ourselves, and then we can get the land, get the power, and get the human laborers from the power plants to deploy our services and machines and etc. And eventually we will have this commission-based model where all the revenue that we get from selling rare earth elements will be shared at a predetermined rate with the coal-fired power plants.
Thank you so much. Andy, please ask your question.
Thank you so much for your presentation. In it, you mentioned the job creation potential. Mm-hmm. I wondered whether you could say a little bit more about maybe per power plant or maybe per state, like how many jobs you think this could support.
Oh, that's a great question. So on top of my head, I don't have an exact number for the question, but I definitely can do more research and then get back to you within 24 hours. But in terms of creating jobs, we're mainly targeting the workers that are currently working at the coal-fired power plants. As you know, that coal-fired power plants will be phased out, if not soon, but they will all be phased out before 2050. So the current workers will lose their job, but we are offering their opportunity to get employed again with that is on site at the coal-fired power plant to work for us to process the coal ash and extract rare earth elements from that.
Thank you so much. And we have time for the very last question. Dan, please go ahead.
Yeah, this is a really interesting idea. You already answered my questions that were more Washington specific, sort of what were, I was wondering about, how many coal plants there were in Washington. I'm only aware of one coal ash landfill in the state. And so I'm sort of wondering about number of sites. And I guess as a business model, it does make sense to try to hit the coal plants because you'd have more customers, but generally waste is consolidated in the state. And if there's only one coal ash landfill, like what's the argument for not just going to work with the landfill and getting all the coal ash once it gets there?
Exactly. That's a great point. And for us, for Washington State, there are only one coal-fired power plant remaining that's in Centralia. And for us, even though the coal power plants phased out eventually, the coal ash that got produced still remains. So it is estimated that for a coal-fired power plant that operates for 40 years, will leave behind approximately 9.6 million tons of toxic waste. And if not dealt with correctly, so that will definitely cause a lot of public health concerns. So eventually, even though all the power plants will phase out, we still have a large reserve of coal ashes to pull resources from. So eventually going forward, we want to target that as our pipeline and to pull out the coal ash from either landfill or ponds to process it to extract rare earth elements, and also filter out all the heavy metals. And after that, we either put them back into the landfill or put it back into the ponds, or we can repurpose it as building materials where we can mix it with cement and asphalt so that they can have better performance.
Thank you so much, Palin from EcoRare. Virtual applause to them. And now it's time for Alice Marie from Free Clothing Stores for College Students. Thank you so much. So Alice, I am spotlighting you, and judges, please go ahead, raise your hands, and we'll start with questions. Natasha, please go ahead.
Hi, thank you so much for your presentation. I was just wondering, essentially how things are going. There's the free clothing drives, but how do you sort of recruit students to help with that? And then what do you think is a big competitor? Because there's a lot of discount clothing shops around college campuses. So just a little bit more about the business model and all of that.
Alice, I don't think I hear you well. I don't hear you at all.
How about that?
Yes, perfect. Thank you.
All right. So thank you for the question. And it is going well. It's a lot of work to do clothing drives for sure. And it's a lot of work to give away clothes when you don't have a physical location on the college campuses. And so part of my struggle in the last 2 years of doing this project was just realizing we can't just keep getting clothes, sorting them, categorizing them, and then kind of what I do is I sprawl out in the hallway at Seattle Central College, and it's amazing, and people love it, but it's not sustainable. So what I discovered is we really need colleges to dedicate physical space so that the store is on campus and it's free to college students to use. And that way, the two questions I get asked all the time when I do clothing giveaways is, when are you doing this again? And can I donate clothing? And I always have to say, I'm not sure when I'm doing this again, and I can't take your clothing.
because I can't transport it back and then, keep doing that. So there is a need, students need free clothes. And if we look at competitors of, secondhand clothing stores and things like that, or Goodwill, the prices are really high. And so it's just not catering to the most, especially the most underserved community members in our colleges. So we would be the free place. So yeah.
Thank you so much, Alice. Ashima, please go ahead and ask a question.
Thank you so much. I sort of had a two-part question. One was, I'm curious how replicable the model is to colleges across the country. Is this a pretty much like copy and paste model, or is there anything that makes it unique to Washington that may not work elsewhere? And then also, is it a model that can be applied to other types of goods? So if like students may also need, as you say, like pantry items or like tools or other things that they may be interested in both giving away but also receiving for free. So just curious about the replicability and application of the model.
Yes, so right now my focus is Washington State because it took me a while to figure out logistics. Community colleges are, state run, so there are a lot of regulations. We, like for instance, when you do get the physical space, which is, for me took about 1.5 years, and I still haven't been able to move in. So hence all the clothes still in my house. So some of the things, the problems are that I didn't anticipate in the beginning were, like, for instance, if you get a designated space, what is it a union protected job to move the tables from that space? We think it is, and so we're working through that right now. We certainly found out it's a union protected job to paint the walls. And then who pays for what? So I work a lot with Phi Theta Kappa, and most Phi Theta Kappa chapters at every community college, they do have money and they do have to work in a PTK 5-star system, which I have done my very best to become an expert in, to help eliminate kind of the overwhelmed feeling that a lot of chapters get. But the 4-star is about college projects. And so I want to use that network to help, instead of this being a 2-year project, which is really hard for community college students, a lot of them are only there for 1 year. So I've now kind of made this into a 1-year project. If I can come in and tailor things to your specific school, like let's look at, do you have an associate student council? Do you have an active PTK chapter? Can I help you make that PTK chapter active? And then as far as replicating, I want to focus on Washington State, but then as I was just the regional, or I'm ending my term as regional president for the Greater Northwest region. And so then I'd like to reach out to the entire region. And also I have just recently spoke at a national PTK conference, and we can then replicate that PTK nationwide. And PTK nationwide, so the region is about 60 community colleges. PTK nationwide is over 1,300.
Alice, thank you so much. Unfortunately, we don't have time for any more questions. Dan and Banush, kindly put your questions in the chat. And we are moving on to Manful and Tiffany and her team. So judges, please raise your questions to ask questions to Manful. And I'm trying to find Tiffany to spotlight her. Please, my team members, help me with that.
Thanks.
Thank you. So do we have the first question?
I have a question.
Yes, please go ahead.
Yeah, so love the idea, and I also have a fashion background, and I completely understand the overwhelm of the fashion industry. So I really appreciate your tackling this unbelievable challenge. My question is, what happens to the upcycled products, the flower pots, rugs, what have you, once they're past their usable life?
Thank you so much. It's a great question. And what we see, partly because we're already embedded in a donation center that's been active in Forks for decades, we see that those products can come right back through to us through the Menful process again. We'll do one of the things that makes us unique is our focus on damaged textiles, not just the easy ones or the simple solutions. So even if something comes back to us after part of it is damaged or it's reached the end of its usable life in that form, we are focused on reclaiming the pieces that are still usable out of it, transforming it wherever possible, and only treating as a very last resort downcycling. And so downcycling for us means making things like fiberfill to stuff pillows, which is one of our most commonly requested items through our disaster relief and community support programs. So we hope that it will keep those materials here. Right now, we are sending damaged goods away, even though there's still value in them. So we really want to stop spending time and money and carbon on sending that value away. We'd like to keep it here and keep it within our loop that already exists of donations and reuse. Thanks.
Thank you, Tiffany. Dan, please ask a question.
Sorry if this was in your video, but I was wondering if your plans for the makerspace were only located in Forks, or maybe start there and expand, or what are you sort of future plans for those spaces?
Sure. So yes, we are starting in Forks. And again, this is coming out of the Forks Disaster Relief and Ginger's Closet program that already exists here. And that the concept of keeping the donation center where people are already used to bringing their goods for recycling, and there's high demand for that repurposing, combining that with a makerspace where we can help our clients encounter the waste. And we already do free repair workshops, and we've seen that helps people understand what is reusable and what is worth repairing or upcycling, and that helps them make smarter decisions when they're purchasing to begin with, which is what we really need to do to end textile waste. So we are transitioning to a new building for the Forks Disaster Relief and Ginger's Closet, and that gives us an opportunity to scale up what we've been doing for our free community workshops. We've been doing them once a month because of limited space. Now we have room to expand that community engagement, create a permanent space that makers can come and use our equipment if they don't have the things at home that they would need to make that. But we see that model being replicable and scalable elsewhere. We also have other opportunities to scale up, branching into e-commerce, through our reclaimed findings and haberdashery that can feed into the fashion industry and so on. But both the products can increase in scale, but also the model of having a makerspace, a community space where there is already a source of textile waste and the tools, equipment, and knowledge to handle it are all in one center. Thanks.
Thank you, Tiffany. And we'll move on to the question from Megan.
Thank you. And you kind of answered it, but if you could elaborate a little bit more on what will allow you to scale up? What's the unique factor, or the secret sauce that is allowing you to replicate this in other communities, to not just scale up, but to we can have this in other spaces?
Absolutely. Thank you. I mean, certainly we're not inventing upcycling, right? And we're also, I think this is important to mention, we're not here to gentrify upcycling. What we do want to do is create spaces for people to encounter textile waste, to bring other people into this textile reclamation and making community. And we also want to pass on skills and create economic opportunity, which is particularly important for our low resource area out here on the west end of Clallam County, but is something that can be taken as a model elsewhere. We want to be really open with our approach and how we're doing this. We already offer free access to any of the damaged goods for any crafters in our community, and we see a need and an economic opportunity even beyond that. So this I think the scalability of this doesn't have to rely on closing down or licensing a particular approach. Rather, it is building that community, connecting with makers, connecting with people across the country, the world, who are already engaged in this, and expanding that user group of people who are engaged. We see a lot of people, we've seen only increases in donations. Sometimes people are looking for an alternative to landfill, full stop. Sometimes people are looking for an alternative to other donation centers that they feel don't have their community in mind or don't have sustainability in mind. But the problem is that people are giving us things that are still damaged. By the time you get to donating your goods to a secondhand shop, that's not the end. There's still a textile waste problem associated with that. Not all of it's reusable, and we want to help people encounter that issue and contribute to its solution. I hope that answers some of your question. Thanks.
Thank you so much, Tiffany. Unfortunately, we don't really have time for any more questions. So right now, we'll be moving judges to the breakout room, and they will be deciding who gets the first prize, the second prize. The first prize for this track is $10,000, and the second is $2,000. So judges will now be, yes?
We have not done the question period for Ryuma.
Oh, yes. Oh, I'm so sorry. Let's not move the judges to the breakout room, and we will spotlight Risa from Ryuma. I'm just running ahead of time. So judges, please prepare questions for Ryuma and Risa. Beautiful. Benuj, do you mind asking a question?
Sure. Thank you so much for your presentation. I just wanted to get a better sense of the public and private partnerships that are going to be needed to make this business model work. Can you speak to that a little bit more?
Yeah, of course. That's a great question. Thank you for asking. In terms of the public partnerships that we'll be looking for, because our product, our stormwater filtration kit, will be primarily utilizing either recycled materials from folks like local farmers who are using burlap or tarp and have nowhere to really dispose of those materials. We're using that for the base of our kits. We're also hoping to partner with local nonprofits such as Cedar Grove or Loop, who work in biosolids and composting, in order to use for our middle layer of our filtration kit for filtering stormwater. And in terms of the private sector, we're currently still looking at our options. We've mainly focused our customer discovery within local nonprofits, local governments, and of course, just normal folks who work within municipalities and utilities. So in terms of private, we're still working on that.
I can also take over. I'm part of Team Remo too. My name is Brenda. We looked at several supply chain processes. We want our kit to actually be making a profit, and whether that's working with the government or working with private sectors, such as commercial properties. For example, Precycle actually has a stormwater retention pond when I worked there. And because a lot of these commercial companies get tax write-offs when they have like a form of GSI or a form of environmentally friendly infrastructure installed. And so we are still looking into partnership with them, but if we can be able to use our product in our kits with private sectors, then that means we don't have to rely too much on the nonprofit or the governmental side to build revenue.
Thank you so much, Brenda. Natasha, please ask a question.
Yes, thank you. You answered one of them, but my other one was just, have you heard any early feedback about the kits, good or bad, that you'd like to share?
Yeah, of course. I could speak first, and then Brenda, thank you for coming. You can add on. We're always in the process of continuing to receive constant feedback from people of various professions. The most recent one that we got was from a Kent Parks manager, so someone who works in public parks, and we want to ask them because we want to feature a lot of our kits in public settings. So things like insight on regulations, permitting, and also feedback on just the structure of our kits, how we can make it more effective, how can we make it more sustainable, what materials can we possibly trade in, trade out. So we're always in the process of just always receiving feedback and always continuously improving.
Thank you. Ashima, please ask a question.
Yeah, thank you. I was curious about the kits as well, just in terms of whether this technology and materials have been used in other projects or other parts of the country that you're aware of. Where did the idea kind of come from for your multi-layered approach?
Yeah, thank you for asking. So I mainly focus in green stormwater infrastructure. So I used to work for the wastewater treatment division as an intern, and I've actually founded a rain garden myself. And that layered structure actually comes from rain gardens and bioswales, because it's essentially using small natural sediments to filter out stormwater and prevent that pollution from going into storm drains. So that was where the inspiration came from. But the reason why we're having kits is because a lot of those structures super expensive, right? They're worth thousands of dollars. They require multiple people and permissions and contractors and a level of expertise. And that just creates well, although it's a very good technology, don't get me wrong, I love them, but they are highly inaccessible for a lot of people, right? If you live in multifamily housing, if you live in just a very dense urban area, it's very difficult to try and put in such a large installation. So that's why we essentially take that same technology, but we put it in smaller kits, so they don't have to build up that very structure, and you don't have to tear up any concrete, and you can bypass a lot of that time and regulations. And most importantly, it's more cost effective.
Thank you, Risa and Brenda. And unfortunately, we don't have time for any more questions. I'm sorry, Andy. So we are now moving judges to the breakout room, and I will share my slide with what happens next. So Sydney, please let us know how much time we have for our quick break for the rest of the audience while we are moving. All right.